Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to be looking at a new supporter card, which is going to be coming out in GX Ultra Shiny. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a little bit complicated, and it's a little bit awkward. But oh my goodness, the effect is over the top, brokenly good. It is the Battle Chatelaine, and it is specifically Morgan. However, this card is Morgan. There are actually cards of all four of them. Morgan, Nita, Evelyn, and Dana. Named after times of the day, if you were previously unaware. And in order to play this card, you need to have all four of these ladies in hand, and you need to discard the other three. So in order to play Morgan, you need to have Nita, Evelyn, and Dana in hand and discard them when you play Morgan. Okay, that's the awkward bit, but the good bit, you then look at the top 12 cards of your deck. Obviously, our translation comes from the lovely David Hochmann. And any energy you find there can be attached to your Pokemon in any way that you like. That, ladies and gentlemen, is over the top brokenly good. You can end up accelerating potentially 12 energies here. That's dumb, ladies and gentlemen. That's like super over the top dumb. Now, to be fair, it's a very, 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 very awkward card to use. Okay, fine. But it's still a card that can be used, ladies and gentlemen. And when you do use it, you're going to get an advantage. Now, the easy parallel here to draw is with Missing Clover. Missing Clover is the previous card we had that you could only use if you had all four in hand at one time. Fair enough. And that let you draw a prize. And that didn't see much play. So what's the difference here? And the difference here, I mean, there are many differences. First of all, we're in a format here where N is no longer a thing. Your opponent can still disrupt your hand using Judge or Marshadow, but generally speaking, your hand is going to be a little bit more sacred. We also have a format at the moment with Macargo in. Macargo lets you search your deck for a card and pop it on top of your deck, which means that you can pretty much guarantee that you've got this here. And then, of course, you can always use something like a Rangaroo to actually draw that card, making it easier to get. And then, of course, we've got Tapu Lele, which can be used to go and search out a supporter card here, which is going to help greatly. And look, I'm not saying it's going to be easy to get all four of these cards in hand. Absolutely not. But I am saying that playing a deck where you're not going to be using Professor Sycamore because, well, Professor Sycamore's rotated out. And you're less likely to have your hand disrupted because a hand disruption we have at the moment is not as good. And if you can use Macargo to go and get one of these and Tapu Lele to go and get the other, then actually this is starting to become a heck of a lot more viable. Yes, you could argue that Missing Clover benefits from the lack of N, and yes, you can argue that Missing Clover can be got with Macargo, but you don't have Tapu Lele there. This seems like an awkward but viable option, ladies and gentlemen. And if we go back to the actual effect of it, it's the top 12 cards of your deck, and it's any energy. Now, if we go back to Max Elixir, Max Elixir was good. Max Elixir was a top 6 card to your deck, and it was only basic energy, it was only basic Pokemon, and it was only basic Pokemon on the bench. It was very restrictive, though it was, of course, an item card. This is look at the top 12 cards, it's any energy to any Pokemon. So something like double colorless energy here can be attached. Something like Beast Energy, your Prism Star energies can be attached, or Counter Energy, or Rainbow Energy. I mean, I could sit here and just keep listing off types of special energy, but I'm assuming at this point you're probably well aware that there are multiple types of special energy. And this does so many things so well. Firstly, it sets up giant attackers. It sets up Pokemon that should be a little bit too expensive and it makes them viable. So if we were to look at something like a Boswell, for instance, well, that's great when you've got free energy on, but actually that free energy is a little bit expensive, and you've got B-string, but you can't always use B-string at every point in the game, and it's a little awkward. Although whether you've got space for all 4 of these supporters and all 4 B-string, I'm not 100% sure. Or you could use it for something like Blacephalon. Now, Blacephalon's really nice. You get to put into the Lost Zone as many energy as you like, attached to any of your Pokemon. And by energy, I mean basic fire energy. Well, actually, it's fire energy attached, so it is any energy that counts as fire energy, so Rainbow would work here too. And the more energy you've got on the field, the more energy you can put in the Lost Zone, and the more damage you can do. And this just gets a whole bunch of energy on the field. The thing is, it puts it in the Lost Zone, and actually, one thing I really like here is using this after something like an energy recycler. That puts 5 energy cards back into your deck, which means that you are then going to have lots of energy. If you can play 1 or 2 energy recycler late in the game and get kind of 10 to 12 energy in a deck of like 20 cards, you're probably going to hit 5 or 6 energy off this, and that's a little bit over the top. If you can get this working while you've still got lots of energy in deck, especially if it's late in the game, that's great. But in terms of early game here, we do have some options, and one of the best ones here is Metagross. And there's actually 2 Metagross I'm looking at here. So first of all, Metagross GX has Algorithm GX, which lets you search your deck for any 5 cards and put them in your hand, like all 4 of these supporters and another card. And then, ladies and gentlemen, you can play them all turn 2. And sure, maybe your opponent has a Judge or a Marshadow, but remember what I said earlier in the video. People are not playing Hand Disruption like they were, which means you are way more likely to be able to keep your Algorithm GX, which means this is way more likely to actually work, which is awesome. Now, of course, there's a strong argument here that if you don't hit enough energies, actually you've kind of wasted your time. Because let's say you use this and you only get 2 energy, that's not ideal. It's a large investment. This is a big risk-reward card, because maybe it will work or maybe it won't. And when it works, it's one of the most broken supporter cards we've possibly ever had. And when it doesn't, it's just a little bit... that was a lot of effort. At least with Missing Clover, you're getting a prize. Now, there is one other huge advantage this has over Missing Clover, and that's you can only play 4 Missing Clover in your deck. Whereas you can play 4 Morgan, 4 Nita, 4 Evelyn, 4 Dana, and something we need to point out here. You've got to think the others are going to work in the same way. There's got to be 3 other. I mean, we know the others are coming, otherwise this card would be literally unplayable. We know the other 3 are coming, and it's probably fair to assume that the other 3 are going to have effects very similar in that you can only play them when you discard the other 3 from your hand, and then it gives you some broken effect. So the other thing we need to bear in mind here is we're not just playing all 4 of them to accelerate the energy with Morgan. We're playing all 4 of them, and then either you can accelerate the energy with Morgan, or you can do something else with the other 3. Now, I realise I never actually told you about the other Metagross. That's the one that when it's in the active, you can use Steven's Resolve without ending your turn, letting you search for any free cards. Although do please remember that when you use Steven's Resolve, that is your supporter card for the turn. You couldn't then also use a Morgan straight afterwards, but if you just want to build them up in your deck, that would be good. There is no argument that this is a broken effect. Risky, but broken. And like I've said, if you use it after something like an energy recycler, it really isn't that risky. I mean, if we take something like a Macargo GX, for instance, that's the one that does more damage depending on how much energy you discard from it. So in the late game, you just play an energy recycler or 2, obviously something you couldn't do with Blacephalon because that puts them in the lost zone. You fill your deck full of energy, and then you play this, and you're going to have 2 or 3 Macago with so much energy on that you're just going nuts. Or you could use this with something like a Gardevoir and just pile energy on and smash. This is a great effect. Now, the downsides here are, it's at least 4 spaces in your deck. And remember, if you play all 4 and one of them's prized, sure, you can use a Gladion and just wait to draw it from your prizes, but that's not ideal. So if you only play 1 of each, you could have 1 prized, and that's a bit of a pain. And yeah, you got to have them all in your hand at the same time, which is awkward. But like I've said, with stuff like Macago, Tapu Lele, Metagross, this is possible. But the really, really exciting thing for me here is that there's 3 more of these, which are probably going to also have amazing effects. And you're not just playing Morgan for this, because it might be that Dana's got an amazing effect and you're playing that instead. These are some of the most exciting supporter cards we've had in years. The first one is living up to the hype we didn't even know it had. But remember, there's 3 more. And essentially, when you've got all 4 in hand, you can choose any of the 4 effects. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exciting. I'm putting 4 Wassies as a placeholder score for now because it's awkward to use. I mean, it's a 5 Wossie card that's awkward enough it comes down to 4. But if the other 3 cards are as good as this, then it's probably a collection of 4 5 Wossie cards. Alrighty then. I want to know what you think about this, ladies and gentlemen. I want to know if you think these are viable. I want to know what your predictions are for the other 3. Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. But please do remember the rule. To be nice, make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And make sure that you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays for some Transformers TCG, and starting today, Keyforge action. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.